God morning, everyone. It is time to read the Bible, Matthew chapter 27. It's a long one, but not as long as 26. And I'm only going to interrupt 2 times. And when we go deeper on this video on Wednesday, it's going to be good. Matthew chapter 27. Early in the morning, all the chief priests and the elders of the people made their plans how to have Jesus executed. So they bound him and led him and handed him over to Pilate, the governor. When Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was seized with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and the elders. I have sinned, he said, for I have betrayed innocent blood. What is that to us? They replied. That's your responsibility. I think we've all been there. So Judas threw the money into the temple and left. Then he went and hanged himself. The chief priest picked up the coins and says, watch how holy they are. I'm interrupted more than twice. Watch how holy they are. It is against the law to put this in the treasury, since it is blood money. So they decided to use the money to buy the potter's field as a burial place for foreigners. Oh, isn't that nice? Bless their heart. Bless their heart. That is why it has been called the field of blood to this day. Then what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet was fulfilled. They took 30 pieces of silver, the price set on him by the people of Israel, and they used them to buy the potter's field, as the Lord had commanded me. Jesus fulfilled over 30 prophecies just through the crucifixion and death. Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "You have said so," Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer, because technically he didn't have to. Just certain people he had to answer to fulfill all the spiritual rules and laws. Then Pilate asked him, "Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?" But Jesus made no reply, not even a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. Now it was the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At that time, they had a well-known prisoner whose name was Jesus, Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them, which one do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Messiah? For he knew it was out of self-interest that they had handed him over. Man, if you knew the Old Testament, what they talk about, the scapegoat, that's where we get ours from, a scapegoat. It's amazing. Oh, man. I'm going to do it here. But they would take the goats and they would put the sins into one, and they'd kill one and send the other on its way. And both of these guys, of course, the Lord and Barabbas, are named Jesus. One gets away and one dies for the sins. Ooh, man, that's some deep stuff. For he knew it was out of self-interest that they had handed Jesus over to him. When Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him a message. "Don't have anything to do with this innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed. "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" asked the governor. "Barabbas," they answered. "What shall I do then with Jesus, who is called the Messiah?" Pilate asked. They all answered, "Crucify him." "Why? What crime has he committed?" said Pilate. But they shouted all the louder, "Crucify him." When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hands in front of the crowd. "I am innocent of this man's blood," he said. "It is your responsibility." For those of you who are old enough to know, the Rolling Stones did a song called Sympathy for the Devil. And in it, Mick Jagger says, I was around when Jesus cried at his moment of doubt and pain, and I made damn sure the pilot washed his hands and sealed his fate. Well, that's true. Pilate washed his hands and sealed his fate. But Jesus doubting? No, no, no. I'll tell you what Mick Jagger was talking about. And a lot of preachers will say this. Jesus doubted. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. I'll show you something. Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus to the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put on a scarlet robe, and then twisted together crowns of thorns and set it on his head. Then they put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him. Hail, King of the Jews, they said. They spit on him and took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After that, they mocked him. And then they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots, and sat down, and they kept watch over him there. Above his head they placed a written charge against him. This is Jesus, King of the Jews. 2 rebels were crucified with him, one on the right, one on the left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads and saying, "You who were going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God." In the same way, the chief priests and teachers of the law and the elders mocked him. He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. Isn't it amazing? They're admitting he did it. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down from the cross now, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him. That's a key verse right there. Now, if he wants him, for he said, "I am the Son of God." In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him. From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the whole land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It's going long. But anyway, we're going to read that in the Psalms. Jesus gave the biggest prophecy of his whole life right there. He didn't doubt. And when people tell you, when Jesus said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" See, even Jesus doubts. Wait till you see the prophecy he gave. Then you're going to say, that's not doubt. That's name that tune. That's a proclamation. Ooh, I'm ready for deeper. When some of those standing there heard this, they said, "He's calling Elijah." Immediately, one of them ran and got a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said, "Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him." And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit. At that moment, the curtain in the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. That's key. Now we can go straight into God through the blood of Jesus. The earth shook, the rocks split, the tombs were broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people. When the centurion and those with him who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed, "Surely he was the Son of God." Many women were there watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and Mary, Zebedee's sons. Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, that's Jesus' mom. As evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who had himself become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body. The Pilate ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb. The next day, the one after preparation day, the chief priests and Pharisees went to Pilate. Sir, they said, we remember that while he was still alive, the deceiver said, after 3 days I will rise again. So give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the third day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he had been raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first. Take a guard, Pilate answered. Go make the tomb secure as you know how. So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard. I'll see you Wednesday when we go deeper into this. Get ready. Jesus didn't doubt. He's a big prophecy maker. You make a God-tastic day, everyone.